"He's ugly," the adorable 16-year-old brunette exclaimed with a shudder. "Don't worry, you won't have to share a bed with him. He is weak as a man, but you must become Queen of Spain." Such words admonished his niece Louis XIV, showing her a portrait of her future husband. And, indeed, the personality depicted on the canvas caused disgust and some wild animal fear, and painted was Charles II to the last of the Habsburg dynasty. Scientists are aware of such an unusual appearance. Modern geneticists managed to prove the share of inbreeding of the last representative of the Habsburgs was 25%. This is very high. Such a percentage is inherent only in children born from people who are closely related. For example, brother and sister. Charles II's parents were Philip IV and Marianne of Austria. His father was his mother's uncle and was 30 years older than her. If this had been the first close marriage, the child would have had a chance to be healthy. But the fact is that the Habsburg dynasty for several centuries in a row concluded marriages only between its members. Thus, the representatives of the family tried to keep in their hands the wealth and power they possessed. This was the rule. There were no exceptions, and only Charles II managed to interrupt this ominous birth of unhealthy children. True, not of his own free will. He was infertile. Charles II was born in November 1661 in Madrid. He was initially ill as a result of consanguinity. He became King of Spain at the age of 3, but his mother ruled the country, and it wasn't just a ruler's infancy. The child was an invalid, suffering from epileptic seizures. The court physician said he had no chance, but he managed to live to adulthood and even concluded 2 marriages. True, in neither of them there were no children. The appearance of Charles II was so disgusting that the first wife, on pain of death, refused to marital relations to his second wife Maria Anna. The king did not even try to touch. However, she did not need his attention. The surviving portraits and verbal descriptions of the sovereign allow us to conclude what he looked like. Charles II had a large head with a forward jaw. His bite was so deep that he could not close his lips, so he spoke slurred and ate sloppily. The king could not chew his food, and it fell from his mouth, causing disgust to all who watched the meal. The king was short and stooped, like a dwarf. He also suffered from diarrhea and severe headaches. Poor health led to depression. Charles II was often irritated for no reason, fell into a rage, but his fits of rabies did not scare anyone. Everyone treated him as a spoiled and capricious child. By the way, most of the time, the king devoted to games and amusements peculiar to children. This fact suggests dementia in the ruler. It should be said that the mother was concerned about the weak health of her son. She tried to cure him, not only by traditional methods, but even with the help of magic. Thus, it is known that the king was subjected to the procedure of exorcising demons. After that, of course, his health did not improve, but he acquired the nickname bewitched or enchanted, so some sources say. The inbred king was absent from his own marriage ceremony. Historians know the fact about which people say, "Without me I was married." The fact is that poor health prevented the king from attending his own wedding. He was represented by Louis Armand I, who was a cousin of Mary Louise. It was rumored that the young lady was in love with her cousin. But this state of affairs did not change the decision of the parents. Charles II concluded a marriage at the behest of older relatives. It was necessary to maintain power in the family. The bride was so shocked by the appearance of her husband that she refused to even touch him. After becoming queen, she fell into depression, felt lonely and abandoned. In fact, this woman found herself in isolation. Already by the age of 30, Charles I looked like a haggard old man. He was thin, infirm and bald. Congenital diseases had taken a terrible toll. The courtiers believed that their ruler would not live long, and they were right. Charles died at the age of 38. In his last years, he began to suffer from hallucinations and epileptic fits. He was not involved in the running of the country at all. This was handled by other people. However, it was the king who was blamed for the decline of Spain. Scholars believe that the portraits of the king are embellished. Court artists try not to attract the attention of viewers to the appearance of the ruler, but they capture the huge lower jaw of Charles II. By the way, this deformation became a sign of all representatives of the Habsburg dynasty. It's their breed trait, but it was in the last of the clan that the malocclusion acquired a large-scale character. During the reign of Charles Habsburg, the Catholic Church began persecuting heretics and committing massacres against those who were thought to be involved in magic. It is not known how many people were burned at this time, but even port servants were accused of witchcraft. The king's poor health and declining strength were blamed on spoilage and sorcery. It never occurred to anyone that incest was to blame. The Habsburg dynasty married only internally. Each of its representatives came to his spouse, brother or sister, nephew or grandmother at the same time. It was no longer possible to figure out who was who.